Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, looks like you just got off the Tour de France over there. Getting a little bike work in?
Well, I have to with the rising cost of gasolina and my high cholesterol probably it'll help bring that down. So yeah. I rode my bike for the first time since 2015 today. We got a little over 3 miles in, so that's why I look like you said, and my hair is all out of place, and that it shouldn't even. I got to cut it anyway. Go back to my buzz cut soon.
You're like a natural Lance Armstrong.
Yeah,
No PEDs there, huh?
yeah. one ball and 0 PEDs.
So you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Just not a 7-time champion or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, what it was. But anyways, while we're talking about one sports cheat, well, not a sports cheat. We've kind of avoided talking about him, and I don't want to get too deep into this. But I need to ask: you did see Conor McGregor's latest tweet about Khabib's dad, didn't you?
I saw the shots of it. I'm so over these news. Conor McGregor takes his shit and 20 websites write about it. I saw it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's almost sad to see him. Now he's trying so hard to be a bad boy. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? Just older, like an old comedian losing his allure or something.
He's trying too hard.
Yeah.
He's trying too hard to be a bad guy. So yeah. So for anybody that's listening, it got deleted, but he basically kind of mocked Habib's dad dying again from COVID and used it kind of as a saying. Poirier said good always beats evil, and he basically insinuated that COVID's good and Habib's dad is evil, and that's why he was killed. So I just don't know. We don't talk about it a lot. We didn't talk a lot about it. I'm finding it to be a little bit disgusting, and I just wonder where this is going to go for Conor McGregor and the UFC. I'll be interesting to see how this plays, and it's going to be kind of, for me, it'll be entertaining to at least watch the backfire, because eventually this is going to happen. I mean, we're a tweet away from him putting a couple words in a tweet that gets him banned from the sport for life, and I don't think that that's far from happening. So it's sad for a guy that basically seems to have kind of hit his peak at about 27 years old, and then got a lot of money, but man, I shouldn't say I wouldn't trade places with him. The guy's rich as hell and got a lot going for him. But holy shit, man! I mean, you talking about a low class, it's you can be a good fighter, but you also you shouldn't be.
But it's also just to the point. That's why I'm not trying not to say much. I don't want to stay on this because it's obviously, and the more we give attention to it, the more he'll keep doing it. It's time to let that float away. So
yep, no, fair enough, and we'll end it on that. So before we jump ahead to the Mega Bellator event this week, we did have a couple events that we talked about last week that obviously took place. Started off Friday night, had the BKFC 19 event. I know you weren't able to catch a ton of the action, but Rachel Ostovich picked up a decision win over Paige Van Zant. Fairly close fight. Basically 3 rounds to 2 for Ostovich. I believe on almost all the cards. One might have had it 4-1, but Paige did better than her first fight, but she's not made for BKFC. It's not her thing. She doesn't have the fighting style. She doesn't have the punching power, and she's simply just not aggressive enough. To make it happen. So
yeah, too bad. I mean, it is what it is, and I know there's other things that happened there that were kind of embarrassing for combat sports, but BKFC for some reason seems to keep moving forward. So I mean, it's I guess it's the taboo.
I'm assuming that we're going to be done with that other YouTube stuff and TikTok shit, but It happens in all sports. We have circus acts everywhere. I just, but as far as the actual BKFC action, it was actually a really pretty entertaining card. The females came to fight Britain Hart, who actually just got married to the heavyweight champ Joe Beltran. Also picked up a win. So some Arnold Allen, or I'm sorry, Arnold Adams, the original inaugural heavyweight champion, also picked up another win, his second in a row since returning back to BKFC. So he seems to be lining up for a showdown with Joey Beltran. And the other thing that kind of came out of that was that their BKFC 22 now will be held in Arizona. So when we talked to Chris Lytle, he said that they were in talks with Arizona, and it looks like Chandler, Arizona on October 22nd. So that was kind of the news that came out of there. Other than that, just a normal night of take away the TikTok BS and standard night of blood violence and solid BKFC action. So is what it is there. UFC followed up on Saturday night.
Yep.
And turned out to be a pretty damn good card.
As predicted, yeah, it was fun. I top to bottom. Oddly enough, the pacing wasn't horrible. Maybe it was because an earlier card at 4 p.m. Eastern time, which is usually, welcome for folks on my coast. I mean, even if you're busy, I recorded them and watched them at my leisure. But great stuff. I know people made a lot of so I did for folks that don't know, I do a Sunday vlog for MMAnews.com, and I did some, I guess they didn't like I used the embedded video on the website to do a breakdown, and it got pulled. So it's on my Periscope still though. But one of the things that came out of it was the odd judging for the fights that were split decision. Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick. I'm trying to think. It was Paiva and Kyler Phillips might have been the other one, and obviously the main event with T.J. Dillashaw and Corey Sandhagen. So the thing that I just want to repeat it here because again it got pulled from MMAnews.com, so I can't do that there anymore. I mean I'll do the vlog, but I just can't use the footage anymore. But and Matt, I know you know about this because we've seen it enough times. When you move backwards in a fight with judges, especially if they're like commissioned judges that have done mostly boxing and not that much MMA. I mean, and I don't know the experience of the three judges. I know Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee were the two names that just pop off the top of my head that were attached to a lot of the decisions that folks didn't agree with. But if you watch the Miranda Maverick Macy Barber fight, people talk about how Barber was moving backwards, but she was countering a lot. But she was still moving backwards. So, to the untrained eye, as far as what's written for judges or how the criteria, moving backwards shows, like that Maverick was controlling and being more putting on pressure, aggression, whatever. And then Barber started doing it in the third round, which is kind of why the fight went her way. That one I understand. But then you kind of saw the same thing with Corey Sandhagen, who's, at the end of the fight, if you looked at their faces, you would be like, well, Corey Sandhagen won this fight. Because T.J. Dillashaw, looked like he, fell through, somebody's window or something. But he, even Daniel Cormier said when he went for the leg lock that seemed to bother T.J. Dillashaw's knee throughout the rest of the fight. When you fall back and fall, fighting off of your back, because the guys on top of you is still able to hit you, which T.J. Dillashaw did. You're not in the dominant position. The guy on top is, again, to the untrained eye, Dillashaw was in a really bad leg lock, a heel hook. Again, it bothered him. I think he needs surgery or something. I read earlier today. I don't know if it's because of that, but that he had trouble getting off of his stool. He was complaining about his knee, so it was a legit technique. But Corey Sandhagen still got hit applying it, and then being a counterpuncher, using his reach, but being a counterpuncher and staying out of TJ Dillashaw's, coming at him also worked against him. So to the untrained eye, if you're not really counting significant strikes and you're looking at the aggression and control, then you're going to score for Dillashaw. So that's the only reason, I said that, the takeaway from it is, it depends on who's watching. It's not something that's going to get fixed anytime soon. I know people are talking about open scoring and this, that, and the other. We had Sean Wheelock on here and talked about open scoring. I don't know if that's going to be something that fixes bad judging I think it's just we just have to filter the bad judges out over time, and it's gonna take a long time before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, in all that we've seen through the history of this sport, like I didn't feel like there was any kind of highway robberies on this event. I thought I initially I've only watched them once, but I did have Dillashaw and I did have Macy Barber winning when I was watching. I understand the Barber fight. The third round was hers. The first round she lost clearly. Second round was fairly close. When you look at the stats, it does look like Barber lost the fight. I just felt like she was taking over momentum in the second round that she eventually carried into the third. I'd have to rewatch. Maybe I'm wrong. Dillashaw fight, kind of the same thing. I'd love to argue the cuts mean you lost the fight, and I know you're not saying that, but that's kind of what a lot of people fall back on, and we've seen that ever since the BJ Penn.
Yeah.
I always think of the BJ Penn George St. Pierre first fight, where Penn busted up St. Pierre's nose. He had a broken nose, blood everywhere, and then St. Pierre wins 3 rounds to none or 29. 28. So and everybody, oh well, look, if that's a street fight, then we know who won and all that stuff. I don't know. I thought it was close. I have a hard time giving the fight to Sandhagen, and not that this has anything to do with the scoring criteria, but he just gave up his back too much. He got late. There was time. You just can't be. He was a little too lackadaisical, and you can't. And I think even Cormier or somebody else kind of said that, like, you can't give up that position.
No.
Even like it doesn't look good. Even if the dude just has your back and is holding around your waist, like it doesn't look good. And we've seen guys win decisions without throwing a damn punch, and but just kind of controlling and I mean, I want to think of kind of Randy Couture versus Brandon Vera kind of jumps to my mind, I think, where Couture kind of just held him up against the cage and kind of just did some stuff, and Vera, kicked him to the body and kind of beat him up, but you win round by round. So I don't know. I didn't see any highway robberies. My greatest takeaway with this is how good TJ Dillashaw really looked for coming back in the first time in 3 years. Had he even lost the fight, I don't think his stock would have dropped, for at least from the UFC's point of view. Obviously, fans like to hold grudges against guys who, let's be honest, the average fan thinks that, Dillashaw's the only one using steroids, and probably half that card was on PEDs on Saturday. So, I mean, it's just the reality. I think Caposa said it best on Twitter. Somebody said, something about, remember when TJ was on drugs and yada yada. He said, yeah, I remember yesterday when everybody was too. So, it's kind of the big elephant in the room when it comes to combat sports that nobody really wants to discuss. They just want to
all sports,
try to band-aid it. Yeah, all sports. And the Lance Armstrong look really is kind of the definition of that. An all-American dude who everybody thought was straight and narrow, and then turns out is a major scumbag. So not that that's not Dillashaw. That's getting back to Conor McGregor again, but but anyways, I thought the fights were good. I enjoyed the main event. Darren Elkins, what can you say? The man's a treasure for the sport of MMA. I mean, not somebody who's going to win a world title, not somebody who's probably ever even going to get a main event. But if I have to fork down somebody to walk into arena, I hope he's on the card when I show up. But yeah, I mean, I thought from top to bottom pretty solid. And this upcoming week's kind of a weak card. I think the UFC is kind of playing it smart with the Bellator.
That card is falling apart. So I mean, it's a good way to segue into the Bellator card that we're going to look at, because I mean, the card been falling apart the last 2 days from Nolan King, who's been on the podcast and multiple outlets talking about fights dropping left and right, fighters that are supposed to be there that aren't because of visa issues. So, I mean, with, people are wondering if they're going to go head to head on Saturday night. I think the one to watch is going to be Bellator 263, which you're going to be at, and let's bring up the card. We might as well, since we're talking about it. I mean, the first time at the Forum, they're leaving the fight sphere in the Mohegan Sun. It's your first time at the Forum in a long time, right? I mean, it's a big deal, isn't it, for the West Coast?
Yeah, and I never thought I would say this, but I kind of think they jumped the gun. I think they trusted the state of California a little too much, and I think it may end up backfiring. It appears now, while it necessarily won't affect my entrance into the arena,
Mm-hmm.
it does seem like that they will ask for vaccination proof and/or a 72-hour test. Meaning, if you're showing up at Bellator at 4 o'clock
So,
on Saturday, you need to be tested tomorrow. Um, Tomorrow by 4 o'clock.
and you said that you saw this through Ticketmaster, right?
Ticketmaster has a warning now when you go to buy
Yeah.
the tickets that they'll follow California guidelines. Will require you to be vaccinated or show proof of a test within the last 72 hours that's negative.
Yeah.
So, considering the fights in Inglewood, considering fight fans aren't necessarily the ones that ran out to get vaccinated, fighters, younger people that tend to go to these events, I would suspect there's going to be chaos and
Mm.
who knows what at the door when they start telling people who have $100 and some tickets that they're not allowed into the arena.
Mm.
Or they're not going to do anything and it's just going to be a free for all and we're going to walk in and it's going to be like Florida, you know. So we'll see, but I don't know. I already have one person who seems to be backing out and deciding basically just to eat his ticket just to not have to deal with
Oh wow.
the BS that's going on there. So
Wow. Well, I mean, the fights are that are scheduled look like they should be fun for those that get to see them. This is the prelims that we have up, but this is
prelims are all right. That's a good one right there.
Yeah, that's the like the top prelim
Mm-hmm.
before they head into the main card. Let's go into the. We've been waiting for this since the week of the pandemic. I mean, I was in the, they were talking about this Grand Prix in New York the week that the pandemic was officially announced. This fight's a long time coming. I think this is probably the best featherweight matchup we're going to see this quarter. I mean, it's literally one of the best champs. I mean, this is for the featherweight marbles, but AJ McKee, Patricio. You have the champion in Patricio Pitbull, who's been pretty dominant in both weight classes, and McKee, who's a second generation mixed martial artist and undefeated, who is it just seems like he's destined to be a champion.
Yeah, not to take much away from Volkanovski, but in my mind, the winner of this fight's the number one featherweight in the entire world, just based off of who they fought and how this happened. This was a Grand Prix of 16 of the best featherweights, not only in Bellator, but a who's who of featherweights in the world. And for these two to basically be the two favorites to end up in the finals, really makes for a storybook ending. Man, it's a great fight. I don't know if you want to do our predictions for that one or work our way back up to it, but
I actually I just want to watch this one. I don't have a pick. Seriously, this is one that can really go either way. And then this co-main event here is one that's probably going to be a sleeper.
Yeah, any fight with Emmanuel Sanchez is going to be a moneymaker. And then you've got
this one I don't mind doing a pick for. It's just the main event I want to stay away from.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll give when we wrap up here, I'll give my opinion on the main event. But anyways, yeah, so yeah, Emmanuel Sanchez, just all around beast mode. One of the top 5 featherweights in all Bellator. Mads Burnell on a huge run himself, coming off a big submission win over Sal Rogers. Is this going to be kind of a? I mean, I'm not sure what. Let's see, how old is? I want to say is this kind of a passing of the torch, but I don't think Sanchez is that old. He seems like he's been around a long time. He's only 30. I think Sanchez figures out a way to get the win. I think he wins a decision. I think he's going to use his ring generalship and his experience at the upper level of Bellator to maybe squeak one out here. So that's where I'm going. I'm going with that, but I think it's fireworks written all over it. I think if this one's fireworks, you're going to have a huge rating for that main event to follow it.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page there. I think Emmanuel Sanchez pulls it off, but it ain't going to be easy. It's going to be fun though. It's going to be fun to watch. And then we have Usman Nurmagomedov versus Manny Muro. I mean, I believe this man is related to Khabib in some way, or am I just is it because of Magomed syndrome?
Yeah, this is a card for a lot of ovs on this card. But I think he's like a cousin or something.
Yeah.
but he's fighting Manny Murrow, coming off a win over Devin Powell, decision, and a split decision over Nick Newell. I think Nurmagomedov moves to 13-0, stays undefeated. Murrow is 12-6, so obviously he's had some ups and downs despite being on a 3-fight win streak. But I think this event's going to be a little bit of a showcase for the Medovs and the Islams and the Megomed Shapirovs of the
they've been
world.
showcasing themselves for a while already, so I mean,
yeah, but
if anything, it puts a stamp on them.
Exactly, and I think that you're going to start. I said it with Team Fedor. I think the Russian influence is just, you can only bring so many in before they just kind of take over. There's so many of them. There's so many good fighters. They're going to take over the divisions, and I'm more impressed with Nurmagomedov's being 42 and 41 and 0 combined at this point. I don't know if any of these guys ever will lose, but we will see. The next fight, Brett Primus, former lightweight champion,
original calf kicker.
Original calf. Yeah, he's the one who started the dead leg calf kick, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, his win over Chandler at the Garden at Bellator 180 set the standard for that. He fights Islam Mamedov. I don't know a ton about him, but he is 19-1-1, and he's got the right kind of last name. I saw Primus comment that he's he's disappointed.
Yeah,
he doesn't like Bellator. I mean, I kind of cry me a river on that. If you fight who you fight, and obviously he wants to fight higher ranked guys, but the bottom line is if Mamedov gets a win over Primus here, he's going to probably jump automatically to the top 5 of that division.
Yeah.
And then he'll be a name, and people will be trying to call him out. So, it's hard for me to pick. Okay, with all that said, now I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing, and I'm going to say Primus has only lost to Michael Chandler. Let's say he figures out a way to win this fight. I don't know how. I think it's going to be an interesting fight because Primus kind of is, despite only having one loss, I feel like he's kind of tilting in that range of, does Bellator keep you around? They have
got a lot of people go lately, so
that's what I mean. Like, your record it's kind of more where you stand in the division and what you can do for me now as opposed to anything, what you did for me in the past. So let's go with, I'm going to go with Primus by I'm going to go out on a big limb here. I'm going to say he gets a second round TKO win and stays with Bellator and moves up the rankings and works his way back towards another title fight in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can be. I wouldn't be surprised if we're surprised by Mamedov, just because there's not a lot known about him. I mean, that sometimes happens in this sport, but I'm more familiar with Primus, so I can't not pick against him.
That brings us to the opening bout of the card: Goiti Yamauchi versus Chris Gonzalez. Gonzalez 6-0, Yamauchi, the longtime Bellator fighter, 25-5. Again, man, I mean, the thing about this main card is you're really looking at like 5 toss-up fights. I mean, there's some solid matchmaking on this card. I'm gonna go with Yamauchi. I think he's got
submission.
Possibly. Yeah. I feel like he has I think he does have a lot of ways to win, though. I think he's one of the few fighters that kind of can win in almost every aspect of the game. Gonzalez obviously is undefeated, so that carries weight mentally for a fighter, I believe, when they come into this. But again, it's hard to go up. When you got a guy who's got 30 fights against a guy with 6, without looking at their amateur records and all that stuff, it's hard to go with the 6-0 fighter. So I'm going to go with Yamauchi. I'm going to go with the decision. Although I'd love to see some kind of flying triangle or something like that.
No, be cool to watch. I think he pulls it off, but for me, by submission. I know you said you wanted to do your pick for this one. So
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I see Spark Yuri chiming in with AJ McKee. He picked AJ McKee. I know personally from the get-go before the tournament was announced, he picked him to win. I think we're going to end up with a firefight here, and I think that in the past, we have seen Pitbull is able to be hit. Weichel got in on him a little bit, had him hurt. Emmanuel Sanchez had him hurt in their first fight. I know that's two great fighters again that he's fighting, but um, I part of me wants Patricio to win because I feel like it elevates him, and all of a sudden we have another guy that we can kind of write down in the history books as one of the all-time greats right now. But I kind of lean towards Yuri Thompson's opinion, and I think I'm going to go AJ McKee by by second, third round finish. I think we end up in a firefight. I think he catches Pitbull, hurts him, and that's just I think that's what's going to happen. Again, it could go totally opposite, and Key could not, or Pitbull could knock him out. But I think this is going to be a violent war. I don't think there's going to be a lot of feeling out, and I think I think someone's going down, and I'm just going to go with the younger, more I don't want to say more aggressive, but I think this might be AJ McKee's time, and I think it's going to set up a great rematch and potentially a trilogy.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I do think it's AJ McKee's time. It's definitely a time where we're seeing the younger guys come up and the more veteran fighters kind of get have to take a step away. I don't want to say job for them because there's no jobbing really in MMA, as it should, there shouldn't be, but it's not pro wrestling. But I do think there's something to be said about these guys like him that are young, second generation MMA fighter that just knows that this is what he wants to do. And now with the growth of the sport and the evolution of not only the sport but the fighters, he's like the perfect example of what we can expect from the future of the years to come in mixed martial arts. And it would definitely make for a really nice story for Bellator's catalog of younger fighters. They get a lot of flack for picking up, older guys and having them sign with them and blah, blah, blah. But AJ McKee was a young fighter that just like kind of Aaron Pico, no one pays enough attention to these younger guys that they sign and mold and build up and market. And here we are with probably the most anticipated fight of the summer for this weight class in MMA, like you said. And, if he wins, that's just going to put this stamp on. That's the argument that I think a lot of people will start to say when you start calling Bellator the retirement home. It's like, no, they're not. Look at AJ McKee,
Yeah, I mean, look at this whole card in general. Yeah. I don't think there's a former UFC fighter on the entire card.
No, it's on a Saturday night, which is amazing too.
Yeah, and it's mainly all homegrown talent on this card. I mean, like I said, we mentioned Yamauchi and some of these guys in Primus, and these guys have spent 99% of their career fighting in Bellator. So, I think it's good. Like you said, Georgi Kanaharian on the prelims.
He's a Bellator vet, and
yeah, he didn't fight in UFC. He's fought a bunch of other places. Johnny Cisneros has fought in Bellator a bunch of times in their on their local shows.
Yeah, so it should be fun. Should be fun.
Yeah, no, I look forward to that, and then I follow that up with Cage Warriors on Sunday. We'll see how that goes. I was hoping for more European talent.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, with COVID and all the travel restrictions, it makes sense. But at least they're expanding and trying to do something here, and I think it's nice to bring a new brand of MMA. I know our boy Eric McCracken, who for some reason has yet to be on this podcast, but he goes on other people's podcasts. But he recently put out Colorado's has approved a one championships rule set for combat sports, which leads us to believe with all the news they've been talking about trying to come stateside to the U.S. So, I mean, the sports growth just means we're going to get more of it, and I don't mind that at all. And Cage Warriors, I'm looking forward to it. I always like Cage Warriors. I believe Mr. Palmer, who I've interviewed a couple of times, fellow Jersey resident from the UK originally, might be calling those fights live. So it should be a good time for you.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of UFC guests, Carla Esparza, Jens Pulver, Jeremy Stevens, a few others, Jessica Penne. I think a handful of them are all going to be there kind of representing the sport. And I look forward to the production. I've got a good seat. Seats were reasonable. It's only a couple hundred people for an outdoor venue on the bay in San Diego, so it can't be all that bad. It's going to be it'll be a great venue, and curious to see the production more than anything. Like I said, not a lot of European fighters on the card, pretty much all American-born fighters, which was a tad disappointing. But like you mentioned with COVID, I think that's just kind of while that maybe it wasn't what they planned, that's just what they
Yeah.
what options are available to them. So that is what that is. A couple other new notes that came out today. A couple more rematches planned for later this year in Bellator and the UFC. Bellator announced that Bellator London will be headlined by the rematch of MVP versus Douglas Lima. Obviously, not a title fight for Lima. As he's coming off his loss to Amosov, but I think a fight that probably was due to happen, and I'm glad to see MVP taking on another higher level competition. It's just crazy that it has to be Lima again.
No, but he's been asking for it, and with Lima,
it makes sense.
losing,
The timing's right.
Yeah, it's perfect, especially going over there. That's not bad at all. Right up there, it's right up their alley. I mean, again with the travelers, I only hope we can get better and not worse. The news is so scary right now with trying to plan ahead for things. It's almost like I'm almost like not to leave MMA for a little bit. AEW is coming out here to New York and Queens, and me and my buddy were trying to make Jeff, who we're trying to plan to go to that, and we were like, maybe we're actually concerned, and that just takes me to the UFC's announcement with Usman and Covington. I guess that's the main event for 268 at the Garden that they're going to do for November, which is their usual time that they come to the Garden. But I don't know, man. I just feel like you said, like you're the way you are with Cali right now. That's how I feel with them trying to do all that out here on the East Coast. So
yeah, I think it's a dangerous game. Even Vegas for September could become dicey. There's a lot going on right now, and there's certain states where you can obviously do more. We've learned that with Florida and Arizona and Texas during this pandemic, but without it being political, the governments in the governments of California and New York are tend to change their minds with how the wind blows or how the snow blows or what the humidity level is and stuff like that. So you don't know. Like I said, I'm attending 2 events this weekend, and I still have no idea what I need to bring, what I need to prove, what I need to wear.
All I would tell you is carry a mask and take pictures of your Vax card if you got it.
Yeah, no, exactly. But and that's what I'm going to do. But it's just it's going to be interesting. But with all that said, so Colby Usman, I like the fight. I like the rematch. I was at the first fight. Great first fight. The build-up will be fun. I also was seeing it look like Gilbert Burns versus Leon Edwards was going to be the co-main event. At least that's what I saw, unless that was a fake story. So another good fight, and you get top 4 guys. I wish they could work a way to get Diaz versus somebody else on that card and just kind of make it a welterweight showcase.
If you think it's funny that they're losing cards for this weekend's event, so many fights week of. I mean, imagine in New York with the history that they have of, everything related to MMA,
canceling fights for stuffy noses
and dried lips and breast implants.
There you go. Yep. So, but anyways, So I mean, good fights to look forward to. I like that they're announcing them. It seems I don't know if I'd be announcing fights for November right now. It seems a little far in advance to and whether the state shuts them down or it just gets canceled. It's 50-50 just with a basic fight cancellation. So we'll see, but it'll be interesting. I mean, it's right around my birthday weekend again. Normally the time I try to come out there, but with all this confusion going on, I don't see any way that I make the journey out to the East Coast.
No, it's not worth it this time.
Yeah, too much it can change, too much can go down, stuff like that. So anyways, I think that pretty much wraps us up. We'll have a recap of the events this weekend. Excuse me, and hopefully have a returning guest next week. That's one of our OGs. So fingers crossed on that. But it looks good right now. Fans again can always check us out at allaccessmma.com for our video podcast. Check our audio podcast out on anywhere podcasts or audio podcasts are available. You can follow the show on Twitter at Combat Hour, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Edit Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Ed, enjoy the rest of the week. Get some miles done on that bike, and look forward to telling you about the fight experience for the weekend.
Yep, I'll be watching over here from the East Coast, but you have fun and stay safe out there, mister. Peace, everybody.
Peace.